Kakadosh, Boker Or. Daf Yomi Masechet Avodah Zarah, Daf Samech Amud Aleph 65a1. We're just going to start on the last line of 64b. Samech Daled Amubet on the last line where it says Rav Yehuda Shada LeKurbana. It's a story. So this had to do with the story of Ger Toshav. Remember, Ger Toshav, there was a three-way machloket. Whether a Ger Toshav is number one, that he only accepts upon himself not to serve Avodah Zarah. Number two, which was Rabbi Meir, Shitat Chachamim, that it was going to be that he accepts seven mitzvot ben Noach, or the third Shita, which was Acherim, right? Which some people say is also Rabbi Meir, but Acherim says he accepts upon himself all the mitzvot except for eating nivelot, eating non-kosher. So Rabbi Yehuda, Shada LeKurbana, he sent a matana to a goy that his name was Avidarna Biyom Edam. Avidarna. This was on the day of their holiday. Now, Amari said, Yadana be, I know, he doesn't serve the Zarah. Now, again, we usually learn at the beginning of the Masechet that you're not allowed to do business with them, you're not allowed to do all these things on the days of their holidays. And now here he's sending him a present on the day of the holiday. So he says, I know that he doesn't do Avodah Zarah, so it's fine. Amala Rav Yosef says, Rav Yosef, Tanya, we learned in a Braita, which this was the first shita of Rabbi Meir. I thought that what is a ger toshav? Somebody that doesn't accept upon himself to do avodah zarah. That's in front of three rabbis. So it's mashma that as long as he accepted upon himself not to serve avodah zarah, we're not going to be somech anymore. That be'emet he's not going to be oved. Meaning, if he never actually accepted upon himself not to do avodah zarah, so therefore it should be asur. Meaning, what do I care that I know that he doesn't do it? Did he accept it upon himself in front of three rabbis? No. So if he didn't, so then why in the world are you going to? So he answers the Gemara, he says, no, that Braita was only talking about the mitzvah to let him live, which means in order that the ger toshav, that the Jew is obligated to let live the ger toshav, he has to accept upon himself that he's not going to do avodah zarah in front of three people. But
connect with community food.
Exactly. But if it's to do with stam, that to be somech that he's not actually doing avodah zarah, just look in your eyes. Meaning, if you know that the guy does not do it, so it's mutar, and that's what he did. Okay.
Okay.
Ask the Gemara, what happens if you have a ger toshav that it passed upon him 12 months and he didn't do brit milah, which means he didn't do giur, he didn't convert. So he's like an avodah, he's like an oved kochavim. So it's mashma that it's the same thing. Meaning, how does he send him a present at the end of the day if he still didn't do brit milah? It's mashma that he's not a ger toshav. So answers the Gemara. Hatam kegon shekibel alav lamul velo mal. There we're talking about in a case where he wanted to do brit milah and he just didn't do it. Here, he never wanted to do brit milah. Meaning, when you have a goy that he converts kilu, he becomes a ger toshav. It's not a real conversion, but he's not like a Jew, but he's a ger toshav. Now, if he accepted upon himself to do brit milah and he doesn't, so then that's one thing. Why? Why didn't he do it? But here, he never did. So therefore, you're not going to hold it against him. Another story. Rava amtele kurbana lebar shishach biyom edam. Rava comes and he gives a present to bar shishach. Again, on the day of the holidays of the goyim. Amari said, I know that he doesn't do avodah zarah. Now all of a sudden he comes and he sees him in the bathhouse that he's covered until his neck with mevradim. It's like rose water, right? So v'kaiman, right? Zonot arumot kameh. Now all of a sudden they had a whole bunch of zonot in front of him. Elmaleh, he told him, he says, do you have this ta'anug in olam haba? Elmaleh, Rava tells him, what we have is much better than this. Meaning what? Just because you have a whole bunch of zonot around you and you have rose water, we've got much better than that. Elmaleh, he says, he says, what, is there any better than this? Elmaleh, he says, Atun, ika laichu emata de malchuta. You guys are still afraid of the malchut. Anan, for us, lo teve alan emata malchuta. We're not afraid of the malchut. Elmaleh, he says, why am I afraid of the malchut? Adiatve, until he actually sat up. Came a shliach melech, and he says, "Kum de kabaylecha malka, get up, because the king wants you." Right now, what happened is that he was enjoying himself with these, and all of a sudden now he has to stop because he has to go to the king. Kinafik vazil, right? When he was going out, Elmaleh, he comes and he tells Rava, "Ena de bay lemichse lechu bishuta tipaka," right? The eye that wants to see your bad should be uprooted.
He wanted to curse him.
Yes.
the Rava, and Rava turned it back on him.
Amar le Rava, Amen paka ene de Bar Shishach. So he says, you're right. That's why the eyes of Bar Shishach went, right? And basically he was upset about his own klala. So basically he became blinded. Okay, fine. Next. Amar Rav Papi, says Rav Papi. You should have said from this pasuk, Benot melachim bikrotecha nitzvah shegal iminecha bechetem ofir. From this pasuk, we see that the tanugot that Bnei Yisrael are going to have in Olam Haba are much greater than the ones of Bar Sheshach. He says because basically here Bar Sheshach, he only had zonot, shvalot. Israel, right? Yishartu ba'olam haba benot melachim yuchasot, like princesses, not zonot. Princesses are going to be serving us. Okay? So he comes and he says, right, like this. He says, Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, you should have said also another pasuk. Right, that the eye cannot even see, cannot fathom that which HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to do for those people that are waiting for him. Right? Yes, that's a Navi in Yeshaya. Okay, Yeshaya. So it means basically what we're learning from here is that mamash, that, like nobody's going to be able to see the kavod and the gdula, right, from this. Fine. Now we are on the two dots. So basically, again, from this pasuk, we see the schar for the Bnei Yisrael, where they're keeping Torah mitzvot, is going to be much greater than this guy that he was in Rosewater with the, Okay, fine. Next, two dots. Imagine right now, if the Oved Kochavim took the poel to do something else, right? Was basically, remember, he said that it means even though he went and he said to bring the
side,
exactly, to bring the yain nesech. So he says, now, even though he doesn't tell him to do it at likrat erev towards the nighttime, right? And that means after he actually finishes, right? So he comes and he says, we have a contradiction. If you come and you take a worker, now after you finish the avodah, you come and you tell him, it's going to be permitted. Okay, that means basically because it's going to be towards the night. Right? So he comes and he says, now the reason why is because it's only going to be mutar, because he did it towards the nighttime when he's already finished his work. Okay, so therefore there he says it's going to be mutar. Kuli yoma asu, but not the entire day.
Well,
meaning only if it's going to be
over already. It sounds like a new work.
So that's why. If it's going to be he finished the work, so therefore, right, it's going to be mutar. He says why? Because he says since it's only going to be, it's already finished the work. So now he's mutar to come and to do this. He says over here, he's already chayav to pay him the money. So now if he's going to tell, meaning basically this, he finished the job. Now he comes and he says, can you take the barrel from one place to another? So now technically he already finished the job. So the money is coming for the job that he finished. Now he's doing something extra, but he's not getting paid for that. So fine, so he's going to take a barrel of yain nesech from one place to another.
I get it.
Yeah, it's the exact opposite. Meaning but if it's going to be during the entire day, you're getting money from the yain nesech. Okay? So Amar Rabbi comes and he says, Kitna nami matnitin, also in our Mishnah, it's written, Damar, it's the same thing. Meaning our Mishnah is talking about where it's at the end of the day that he finished the work, now he's going to ask him, take a barrel from one place to another, it's going to be mutar. Rava comes and he says, no, it's not a question. Here he told him, pass me 100 barrels for 100 prutot, meaning $1 per barrel, let's say. And he says, every single one for one pruta. That means since every single pruta is a schar, meaning every single barrel is $1, so therefore if he's going to now take the yain nesech, he's getting paid for the yain nesech. But if he told him, you're going to pass me 100 barrels for $100, it wasn't that each one was $1. I'm giving you a lump sum. It's $100, right? So therefore, if he's going to take one of it didn't matter about the yain nesech or not yain nesech. Either way, he's going to get paid the $100 because of taking by the 100 barrels. So says the Gemara, what's the proof? It's going to be asur. But if he told him chavi pruta, then it's going to be mutar. Okay, fine. Next, two dots. If you're going to rent a chamor in order to bring yain nesech, so you're not allowed. You're not allowed to benefit from it. So says the Gemara, why do we need another chamor now? Before we were talking about, you going and taking the barrels. What do we need now about the hamor? Yeah, it's the same idea. Hainu reisha. So he says, no, seifa. We need the seifa. Lesheva lea, sechara lesheva lea, bisheniach oved chovim legino alea, secharo mutar. if he right now, he basically
That's
wanted to use the animal. Yeah, he wanted to use the animal. Now, even though the goy is going to come and is going to put his yain nesech on top of it, you're still allowed to benefit from it. Why? Because the schirut, exactly, the schirut was not on the renting, was not on the putting yain nesech. It was just happened to be, but really, it was for him to sit on it. So lemeinmra telagin lavdina ulehotve says what? Are you going to tell me that he doesn't actually come and he doesn't have the rights to put the jugs on top of it? Imagine you're going to take a car. I'm going to tell you, but you can't put your things in the car. You say, why? The same thing with the donkey. Or minhu, we have a contradiction. You're allowed to put your clothing on it, your jug on it, and your food for the provisions, whatever you need. Mikam va'elach. But if it's going to be after for 3 days, then he could stop him. Right? So the chamar is the one that he's actually the driver. So he could put barley and grains and things of that of the same day. But after that, meaning if he's going to do for extra days, he could actually stop him from doing so. Which means that there's certain rules about when are you allowed or what are you allowed to do or not to do. So Abai comes and he says, he says, even though to the socher there's the zechut to put the kad, right? That means he's got the merits of putting the jug of wine there. But if he didn't put it, can he say nakile agra de leginato? Meaning, imagine like this: you rent a car, right? And you're allowed to put in the trunk whatever it is. Now, let's say you didn't put it in the trunk. You could come back to the guy, renter, and say, "Listen, I didn't put it there, so now you could take off of the renting." No, it doesn't exist. So because of that, that's why it's going to be mutar. So Hechidami, what's the case then? If it's going to be common, right, to come, right? So he says chamar nami leakev. So then the chamar could also be meakev. So he says v'idlo shchiach lemizban. Now if you're going to tell me, right, he says v'idlo shchiach lemizban. Now if you're going to tell me that it's not found in the mizunot for the kniya, so socher nami lo meakev. So therefore he says also the socher is not going to be meakev. Which means that if he cannot sell it, so therefore nobody could stop him. So Rav Papa says, what are we talking about? The shchiach lemitrach, you could sell it, but you have to look for it. You have to be toreach, you have to toil for it to come one place to another place. So chamar, that's the normal thing for the chamar. A socher doesn't do that. Meaning a renter will not come and start going crazy to sell these certain things, right, during the night. But the chamar, that's normal for him. That's his job. His job is a camel driver. So therefore he's going to come and going to sell and buy and sell and do. So that's normal for him. So that's why you could do that. Okay? Fine. Story. You with me?
Making a difference between renter versus driver.
Exactly. The renter, because the donkey driver, that's his job. So he's going to come, he's going to sell, he's going to do all these things, and he'll do those things. But the donkey, the renter.
Of what? Renter of a donkey?
Yeah, renter of a donkey.
Well, what, the donkey driver is also a renter.
No, the donkey driver, this is his job. His job is the donkey driver. So since it's his job, he could only have 1 day of provisions. Right? Why? Because he could come, buy, sell, he could do all these things in order to get the food for that day. But the renter, I'm going to rent something. I'm not going to start buying and selling every day. I'm going to take everything with me and I'm going to go.
Got it.
Fine. Avua, the father of Ravacha Bered Ravika, right? Samichei Amud Bet, 65b. He was selling wine to Oved Kochavim. So he was emptying out. And then afterwards, he was ma'avir the Oved Kochavim wine, right? In the, over the river, over the bridge. Now the Oved Kochavim would come and give him the chaviot of cheres, right? For his wages. So Atu, they came and they told Abaye. Amalu, he says, Ki katarach betere katarach. When Rav Ika was coming and doing the work, which is basically emptying out the wines into the flasks, he was doing it be'eter. Because basically, it doesn't become a sud until it gets to the bottom of the flask of the Oved Kochavim.
What do you mean?
Meaning like this.
You mean he poured it in?
When he's pouring it in, until it doesn't get to the bottom of the flask, it's still permitted. So he says 1 second, but Rav Ika, he wanted that the wine, even after it becomes a sud, it should still stay there. Why? Because then the Oved Kochavim would have to use other flasks, and then he wouldn't pay him for it.
In general, you don't want Avodah Zarah to continue to exist.
To continue to exist. So here, he does want it to exist in order that he gets paid for it.
Yep.
So answers the Gemara, he made a condition. What was the condition? The condition is that even if the flasks are going to break, he doesn't have to come and start bringing barrels and all. it's still his. That's it. Like that's the rule. Meaning they made this special condition. Inami or the maitu pardiske ba'adayu, right? That they brought other jugs or other utensils which are empty, that they could accept it, that if right now it breaks, they could just put it in there. He says, yeah, but he's taking it over he's taking it over with a sfinat ma'avodah, which is basically like with a small boat, from one side to another, that he's being katarach b'yisura. So he says, he says, no, Ravika went and he told the Baal Sfina from the beginning that he's taking, that he's taking the lekuchot and not he himself. So it comes out that he never did a melacha. He basically told the guys of the boats, listen, you're taking these guys over, but it wasn't that I'm taking them over, it's he's taking them over. Inami dinekat bikitra, or that they were actually holding on to the poles. Right, so therefore, so it comes out that they know that it's him.
It was his fee going to be the earthenware vessels that this
Says the Mishnah on Samechei Amud Bet 65b. The Mishnah Yain Nesek Shenafal al Gabe Anavim. When you have Yain Nesek that fell on top of grapes, Yedehen, right? Yedichan. Sorry, you were going to rinse them out. Vemutarim. Right? That means again, you've got the Yain Nesek falls on grapes, rinse them out, and it's permitted. But if they were broken and therefore obviously it seeped inside of the grapes, asurot. Nafal Gabe Tenim or Gabe Tvanim, if it fell on top of figs or dates, Im Yesh Ben Shenoten Tam, if it has a taste of the wine, it's going to be asur. Umase bebaitus ben Zunan shevi grugorot bisfina. It was a story of Baitus ben Zunan that he brought dried figs on a boat. And a barrel of yain nesech broke. And it fell on them. So they asked the rabbis. The rabbi said it's permitted. This is the general rule. If it gives taste, it's going to be asur. If it does not give taste, it's going to be mutar. Just like chometz of Yisur, chometz is basically vinegar, which is basically wine vinegar, that comes and falls on top of beans or whatever it is. So it's going to be the same thing, that if it's going to give it a bad taste, so therefore it's going to be permitted. Okay? So says the Gemara, the story, is that a contradiction? Why? Because the Mishnah told us at the beginning that everything depends upon that if it's going to fall on top of figs or dates, it's going to be a sur. And then all of a sudden comes and tells us that it's going to be mutar. What's going on? So he says, no, this is what it means to say. Right? He comes and he says like this. Im noten tam livgamhu, if it's giving noten tam livgam, it's going to be mutar. And there was a story that also happened with Baitus ben Zunin that he brought the gerot, and and therefore it was noten tam livgam. It was a bad taste. Anything which gives a bad taste is going to be permitted. Okay, fine. Next two dots. Right? There was a pile of wheat. The yain nesech barrel fell on top of it. So he went and he said, sell it to the goyim. So Rava. So Rabba comes and he asks Rava, beged shavad bo kilaim. If you have a clothing that all of a sudden now there's kilaim in it. Remember, kilaim is when you have shatnez, right, inside the clothing. You're not allowed to a thread. Yeah, one thread, but that's called shatnez because you have wool and linen together. So he says you're not allowed to sell it to a goy
because he might sell it to a Jew.
Yeah, velo. You're not allowed to also make it into a
blanket for a donkey.
Yes. Okay.
Blanket.
A saddle blanket. That's why it's a blanket. Okay. Yeah. Saddle blanket. Right. You can make it for shrouds for a met mitzvah. Right. Why? Because nobody's going to take it from a met mitzvah. And it's a surbana because of the met. Once they use it for a deceased, you're not allowed to benefit from it. Now, why, or the reason why you're not allowed to sell it to a goy, was maybe he's going to sell it back to a Jew. Hachanami. So to hear, right? We're going to suspect that they're going to give it to a Yisrael then. Yeah. So he comes and he says,
interesting. That's a good argument because you can't tell the wine's on it unless it turned color.
Exactly.
Apparently it didn't.
Exactly. So he says, Hadar Shara lemitchinu. So he says, then Rava came and he permitted it, umefinu, to come and to grind it or to bake it or to sell it, as long as it's not going to be in front of Israel. So he says, now why? Now you're not allowed to do it in front of Israel because then they're going to say that he's selling pat lakum. Right, and then he could buy it. Meaning, if they see the Jews selling it to the goy, so then you're going to buy it from the goy. But if you don't see it, so you're not going to buy it from the goy because you don't know what this is. So Tanam, we also learned on Mishnah, you're going to rinse them out, then it's going to be permitted. If it's going to be that they're broken, it's going to be asur. So Rav Papa says, wheat is different. The way that the wheat always has a crack. So because of that crack, it's like considered that it's open. So therefore the yain nesek will seep in, and once it seeps in, it's going to be asur. Okay.